On the far side of the globe lies a continent among the others, the continent of Africa. Although believed to be the cradle of life and all civilization, the African continent is very diverse and comprises of 54 countries, each one unique and teeming with culture and traditions, from the hot sub-Saharan desert to wildlife teeming in the African plains. Africa is home to abundant wildlife, natural resources, forests, massive lakes, and waterfalls. It is for this reason that Africa was colonized by several European powers, and yet Africa continues to have its resources extracted. In recent times, the African continent has continued to gain the attention of new emergent superpowers to the east, while continuing to court the United States for funding. This could clearly be seen in the just concluded US-Africa Summit, which was held in December 2022. The last time such a summit was held was back in 2014. The event was attended by 49 African presidents as well as their delegates. Yet the true jewels of Africa are not the resources, but rather the people, especially the future generation. While the developed nation's population is projected to decline, Africa's population is expected to double to about 2.4 billion people in 2050, with half of that population being less than 25 years old. It is therefore important to ensure that the youth are empowered and equipped in solving the challenges Africa faces. This is Africa Rising, a series dedicated to understanding the challenges Africa faces, the misconceptions, as well as solutions needed to move the continent of Africa forward. Welcome to the series Africa Rising, a series aimed at understanding the challenges Africa faces, the misconceptions, as well as solutions needed to move the continent of Africa forward. My name is Arthur Oreke, and today we'll be going over 5 common misconceptions most foreigners have about Africa. The first misconception in the developed world is that Africa is a country. This is definitely not true, as Africa is an entire continent consisting of 54 individual sovereign nations, each nation diverse, full of rich cultural background, heritage, and had many tribes which were forcibly glued together by the colonial powers during the colonization period. In addition, Africa is home to several religions: Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Judaism, traditionalism, and more. This makes applying one formula solutions a little more complex, as solutions need to be able to factor these differences into the equation. The second misconception is that poverty abounds everywhere in Africa. Whenever Africa is portrayed by the Western media, scenes of malnourished children, unsanitary environments, long queues of people waiting for water or fuel are rendered onto the screen. This tends to create the general stereotype that all of Africa is poor. This is a misconception, as poverty abounds all around the world, even in the developed world. Although some areas are poor, wealth also abounds, and the Western media fails to showcase African cities that are comparable to cities in the developed world. What is more surprising is that the African continent is rich in natural resources, which are being extracted by developed countries for the development of their countries. Africa is rich in agricultural resources as well as minerals, including petroleum, gold, silver, diamond, among many. What is also odd is that after these resources are extracted by developed countries, these resources are refined, processed into finished goods, and then exported back to the African continent for consumption. The third misconception is that Africans live in the jungle. There are those who believe that Africans live in jungles surrounded by wild animals. This perception is definitely not true. Although Africa is known for its abundant wildlife, people do not live in the jungles. From the rural areas to the cities, Africa is still advanced compared to what is being portrayed in the Western media. Africa has a booming city life that compares to that of the developed world, with apartments, houses, shopping complexes, movie theaters, and other amenities one would find in the developed world. Several multinational companies such as Mobil, Chevron, as well as well-known franchises such as McDonald's, KFC, can also be found in Africa. All it takes is for one to get on a flight out to Lagos or Dakar, Senegal, Accra, Ghana, Johannesburg, South Africa, or even in Kenya, among others, and one would find skyscrapers and entire city scenes that look like any other part of the developed world. Matter of fact, several African cities are quite densely populated and vibrant with people. For example, Lagos, Nigeria, which I liken to the New York of Africa, has a population of 15.9 million people, and that number keeps rising on a daily basis as thousands of people come in from all parts of the world to Lagos seeking to make a living. The fourth misconception is that Africans do not speak English. Contrary to this perception, there are over 237 million people in Africa that speak English in total. That includes native and non-native speakers. Most African countries actually retain the language of their colonial masters as their national language. Several of these, for example, French, remains the official language of Benin Republic, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Cameroon, the Central African Republic, just to name a few. Same thing with Portuguese, which remains the main language of Cape Verde, Mozambique, Angola, just to name a few. English also was retained by several other African countries, including Nigeria. Now, in addition to these main languages, it's estimated that there's a total of 1,000 to 2,000 native languages. The fifth and final misconception is that Africans are uneducated. According to the United Nations, Sub-Saharan Africa has the highest rates of education exclusion globally, as nearly 60% of the youth aged 15 to 17 are not in school. Although access to education remains an issue in parts of Africa due to lack of proper or dilapidated school structures, inadequate educational resources, ability to pay tuition, and more, most Africans aim for their children to achieve more than they did. In light of this, more parents are becoming aware of the need for education. Contrary to the perception that Africans are uneducated, it's been said that Africans in the diaspora are considered some of the most educated people in the world. These are Africans who migrated from the continent in search of access to knowledge. These are Africans who came, learned, and have risen to great ranks in Western society, taking on various positions such as in the fields of academia, science, technology, engineering, and more. The achievements of Africans living in the diaspora reveal the great untapped potential the continent of Africa has if education was made accessible and affordable for all. Hope this helps in presenting some of the common misconceptions foreigners have of Africa. Don't forget to like the video, share, and subscribe to our